So the combine is over, and boy, we're about to get real interesting. Free agencies on the horizon. This combine, though, they brought some shockers. Jeff Caldwell, what the heck? That dude's an alien. But did you see my combine time? Yeah, I ran a 4.1, subtly got out the limo, popped up in there. Aaron Glenn may have missed me, but that's okay. Next year, I'm going to try to hit for that 3-second 40 yard. I got it. I'm going to keep working, keep stretching. I'm going to need a lot of stretching. But what's going on? What's cooling? We got a 4-round mock draft. We got to pop into this sucker here. Fernando Mendoza, #1 overall pick. Self-explanatory. I don't need to talk about it. I'm going to keep throwing my hand. No, we're good. We're moving on. We're going on. On to #2, Arvell Reese. He's an alien too. I mean, this guy's, 4.47, 4.46, whatever the heck he ran. Solid enough arm length to get the job done. The drills, he looked really good in that. He's a bit of a rejection off the edge. Jets need talent. They need somebody like an Arvell Reese in that 3-4 defense. We got Tavondre Sweat in that trade. We go get ourselves that #2 guy with Will McDonald. O-E-I-E-I-O. Reese might be, hopefully can be the Micah Parsons for us in this defense. We need somebody. And then we go on to Sonny Styles. It's sunny now in Arizona. They get themselves a Hall of Famer here in Sonny Styles. I'm like, sometimes where you're just like tingling with vibes of like, oh, Hall of Famer vibes, like Hall of Famer tingles, right? Like that's kind of ASMR tingles, but instead it's like Hall of Fame tingles, I guess, if you want to call it that. Sonny Styles gives me that vibe. And everybody here, at the combine gets drafted. They're all successful, and no matter how you shake it. But Styles, man, there's just like this, sense when you listen to him, it's like this guy, that's what you just I don't know, something clicks. They like, you know what I mean? Styles is unbelievable. Arizona may not be their biggest position of need or nothing. They need offensive line really bad. However, it just is what it is. They need quarterback, of course, but this is a rebuild and just take great football players. And I do think Styles has that trajectory where it's like, oh my gosh, this guy is somebody I can't pass up on. On to #4, the Titans. I love Jeremiah Love. This is one of those where it's just like, yeah, I mean, he's one of the best players, if not the best player in the draft. He solidified that with the combine. The Titans, this may not be their biggest need. You could always make the argument, go ahead and get the offensive line up to date here. They got Jermaine Johnson at least off the edge, so that'll help them a bit there. I think Arden Key could come back on a cheaper deal. They still absolutely need to address that situation. They need cornerback, but Love is a beast, right? And adding a weapon in here, whether it's a running back, wide receiver, is going to be key for this offense. Jeremiah fits the bill. He's a spin-moving, athletic, freakazoid, air-leaping monster that will certainly add a 1-2 punch with Tony Pollard next. And Tony Pollard could be moved this offseason. Tajay Spears more of a change of place player anyway, just with the injuries, durability stuff. Good player. I mean, both of those running backs are good. It just Jeremiah Love elevates it, and that's kind of where I'm going with adding a top-tier talent. Francis Mauigoa, going to be their right tackle of the future for the New York Giants, and John Harbaugh, and he could also play right guard for them. I still think he can be a tackle. You got Van Roten's a free agent. You got Illuminar free agent. Boom, bada bing. Spencer Fanu, put him up on that offense. I've been listed here as the interior, and that's fine. I don't care if he plays interior or plays tackle. I mean, Titus now going to slot into that right tackle position, presumably, but he can also move to the interior too. But Fanu, he looked so utterly buttily smooth in the drills and just moving around. Yeah, Fanu's the guy. He is. I'm not worried about the arm length. I still think he could play tackle possibly, but if nothing else, he could be like your Elton Jenkins, move around. I'm sure the Green Bay Packers are going to be trying to fire up a way to get this guy. He fits the Green Bay Packers mold for sure. I like Fanu. Great offensive lineman. I'm not reaching here. I mean, I know Monroe Freeland's getting out there, but I take the best. A lot of times you try to search for, who's the left tackle? Just take the best offensive lineman. And not, knock anything on Freeland. I think he could be a really good player. He's got the most upside, arguably, in this entire draft. Him and Ihanacho, I think, both have the most upside, but Fanu is a great player that is a day one plug-and-play starter for them. They need good offensive linemen. David Bailey, David versus Goliath. Go ahead and get yourself an edge rusher for the Washington Commanders. They need talent there, and he is going to fit that bill for sure. He's got enough wingspan, too. I think that it's going to be a nice fit for them. They gotta get some more talent off the edge, presumably, because right now it's Dorrance Armstrong and nobody else. So finding somebody here for Dan Quinn in this defense makes too much sense. Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver from New Orleans, right, from USC. They get themselves a playmaker for Tyler Shook with Chris Olave. Yes, you talk about what was he doing there at the I love it, man. I love it. Makai Lemon, I'll pump you up. Let's go. We're bringing some ringer out here. I mean, I would have liked to seen him a run and all those sort of things, but I'm not worried about it. It's, his speed isn't his game. He creates separation. He's tough at the catch point. He's physical after the catch. He's just got all the things that I love from a wide receiver. I'd still take him at number 4 for the Titans. He's a dude. So here he goes to the New Orleans Saints. Kenyon Sadiq, number 9, to the Chiefs over Caleb Banks. What? Are you crazy? Yeah, man, I maybe just a little bit, but a lot. The knee situation, we'll have to keep an eye out on that. But Kenyon Sadiq would be like that dude for Travis Kelsey, behind Travis Kelsey for a season. That 1-2 punch that they provide. Yeah, I mean, he just seems like he could fit that Chiefs mold, exactly what they want as a threat over the middle of the field for Patrick Mahomes in this offense. I'm lining up Sadiq here for the Chiefs. Perfect fit. I just love it. It's a dream come true for the Kansas City Chiefs. Voice crack. On to number 10. Yes, there goes Caleb Downs. Not far of a fall, but the knee situation is going to have to be monitored. All right. I mean, we'll see. Is it all talk or I mean, we're seeing stuff like this with Kirby Joseph and knee situations, so we want to keep an eye out on all those sort of things because it is important. The Bengals, you got to take yourself a stud safety like this. Caleb Banks, top tier talent, too easy of a pick. I'm sure the Cowboys fans like, oh, we would have loved that, right? But they got themselves a stud too. But Mansour Delane here, I thought about taking Mansour Delane for the Dolphins as well. Sorry, Ruben Bain for the Dolphins as well. But Delane fill on to one of those cornerback positions. Ruben Bain would have been a really good pick too. Either which way, you could talk me into a lot of those things. But maybe you're saying, oh, the arm length. I wanted to kind of I guess, hydroxify it, or that's not the word. I don't know. I think this sounds like some sort of medical term, but I wanted to excruciate or nauseate the fact that Ruben Bain's short T-Rex arms are going to drop him down the board, which they're not going to. Just probably not going to drop him this far. I think 10 would be his floor here anyway, or 11 to the Dolphins. But he makes it to the Cowboys in a rare footing and just something where who knows, right? If the board gets crazy, we're trying to highlight some combine freaks and stuff. So Ruben Bain, since he came out with that short, didn't run the R, we didn't run to the combine and whatnot. Then he falls here to the Cowboys, which would be a dream pick for the Cowboys. Get themselves more edge talent with Donovan Ezaraku. Let's go on. Carnell Tate falls a little bit here, and I still think his film, like, I'm not worried about his combine. Like, I expected him to run somewhere in either the high 4.4s or the low 4.5s, and that just makes too much sense with his talent. To come here to the Rams, get themselves somebody to sit or not sit, but he'd be that third wide receiver behind Devontae Adams and end up being their number 2 of the future with Puka Nacua. And they got to pay Puka, so finding a cheaper contract with Carnell Tate makes a lot of sense for them and making sure that Les Snead stays cap compliant and all those sort of things, financially viable. And then you got Vega Ioana here to the Baltimore Ravens. Hey, they may end up losing one of their their best offensive lineman in Tyler Lindenbaum, and go ahead and find somebody on the interior to help out with Vega Ioane. They need it, right? They need a guard. They may need a center here really soon. So improving the interior offensive line. He's a beast. Easy plug and play guy. Then we go on to Anthony Hill Jr. from Texas. Hook 'em horns, baby. This might be a shocker. I'm really high on Anthony Hill. Oh my gosh, I like him. I'm higher on him than CJ Allen. And I like CJ Allen. I just think CJ Allen's more of a back end of the first or ideally a round 2 guy. Like that to me is like you get him round 2, I feel good about it. But I think Anthony Hill is a difference maker. And I feel like he is a first round guy. At least on my board, he's a first round guy. He's not perfect in coverage. Like he's still gonna have to learn it, but I think he's okay. I love him as just a chaser, man. He's got true sideline to sideline range. Yes, he does. Like that's something that we talk about too much, but he has that legitimate sideline to sideline range. I think he's going to be a Todd Bowles fit in terms of a blitzer, what he brings as a thumper. Anthony Hill's a dog. They need a dog up in that linebacking core. I really do like Anthony Hill, what he brings as a hybrid linebacking, edge rushing extraordinaire player. Like he's another dude that can actually play off the edge too. On to Dylan Thieneman, New York Jets. Go ahead and get themselves a he was jumping out of the gym there at the combine, man. He is another dude that is a freak athlete. All in all, his tape is really good. The Jets need a safety. Say no more. Plug him in. Thieneman's the guy here for the Jets. Monroe Freeland. I'm feeling this pick here for the Detroit Lions. Hey, he can play guard early on. He could be your long-term left tackle. Decker's coming back. Doesn't mean that I don't want to address this. fool me once, shame on me, right? Fool me twice, or no, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, what a shame on me. They need to make sure they've had issues with this in the past, with obviously Frank Ragnow and injuries with that situation. They need to make sure that they solidify that left tackle position and they can move Ratledge into center, put Freeland at guard early on, or he can at least compete with Mahogany and making sure that he's healthy too. Freeland helps out this offensive line. Then we go on to Jerron McCoy, corner going to the Vikings. I would have loved Dylan Thieneman too here. And I mean, I still think about Nicky with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, but I think McCoy is just best player available. You got to look at that knee situation. How did he test with all the medicals, all that stuff? But get your doctors out there. Get the little spectroscope thing or whatever the knee punking thing that they use. I don't think that's how they check it, but who knows? McCoy though, at number 18, solidifies this room with Byron Murphy. And he'll be going to a contract year too, so finding maybe a way to get cheaper there, Isaiah Rodgers, etc. And that, I mean, they need a safety too. They can address that in free agency. On to number 19, Avion Terrell, great football player. I think he's an underrated player actually in this draft class. He's physical, even though it's despite his size, really good all around, smooth athlete, looked extremely smooth in the drills. Carolina, put him in the slot for year one. He could be your long-term Mike Jackson guy if they can't pay him after this offseason, this next season. Caden Proctor, get yourself that left tackle, move Guyton over to right tackle. I think Proctor is an absolute beast. Another one of these underrated players in the draft, in my opinion. I still do like him over Monroe Freeland. It just depends on the fit in the team and all those sort of things. I think for the Dallas Cowboys, it's a perfect fit, and Proctor is a strong mammoth player that moves exceptionally well, and he jumps really well too. He's an explosive enough guy to hang out there at left tackle. Jordan Tyson, wide receiver from Arizona State. He falls no farther. Pittsburgh, they find themselves a steal, find their number one wide receiver, and it's self-explanatory. Aaron Rodgers, if he ends up, being that guy for another season, Jordan Tyson, I think is a perfect, like, Devontae Adams clone for him. Now we go on to Peter Woods for the Chargers. Get themselves a stud 3-tech. That's what they need to go on with Caldwell and Tart. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, safety, going to the Eagles here. Maybe they look at their wide receiver. Maybe this is a Denzel Boston scenario. I know A.J. Brown, they're saying, we want multiple first-round picks. I don't know if anybody's going to be willing to give up multiple first-round picks. They might have to settle for a day 2 pick. Who knows? It's Howie Roseman. He gets what he wants, it seems like, unfortunately. Give me what I want, and I will go away. But we're going to go ahead and take ourselves a stud safety to pair along with Mukaba. I like the combination that they bring, too. Like, Warren's a guy that can play up top. He can play up in the box. A really versatile player, and certainly has some size. And he is just a playmaking specialist. Then we go on to Omar Cooper Jr. Gonna be that dude, man. Cooper might go above Jordan Tyson. Who knows? He's a dog. He's got that yak ability, no doubt about it. And he's got some speed, more speed than you think, right? 4-4 combo in there. And Cleveland, they need help. And they need somebody like Omar Cooper to add some juice into this offense. Let's go on. Keldrick Folk, edge rusher. Gonna be to the Bears. Just a pretty self-explanatory pick for them. They need edge. They need guys who can get after the quarterback. I know Folk may not be that perfect get after the quarterback guy year one. They're going to have to address that too in free agency, but you got Book, Sweat still here. Folk can be that good developmental guy and hopefully the future for them in that defensive line. We go into Casey Concepcion. Concepcion, Percepcion, whatever route running metric you want to use. He can certainly create some help for the Buffalo Bills. They need help here at this position group. Then we also get a wide receiver in Denzel Boston for the 49ers, who also need some help there. And Brandon Ayuk gone, at least soon here, and finding some help because Bourne's a free agent, Jennings a free agent. They could certainly use some more help. And Denzel Boston hopefully could be their Puka Nacua to a little counteraction up in your lawsuit with the Rams. Going on here to the Houston Texans. I'm going with Caleb Lamu. Now, Caleb Lamu from Utah, the other Utah tackle. He is going to be the selection here to hopefully move over to right tackle and be their franchise bookends with Ariante Ursary. And Lomu's a really good football player, really athletic guy, somebody that I think fits all the traits you look for that can develop into the next Garrett Bowles type of tackle. Like, that's his upside, in my opinion. And for Houston, they need to look at that after trading Titus Howard. Speaking of trades, I literally just got this alert. So I'm going to be honest with you. This was supposed to be the Rams pick here, and I had Colton Hood coming, so I kinda just had to swap it out since this is a 4-round mock draft. I wasn't able to completely shake up the entirety of the draft. I think the Chiefs seriously could be in line for Mansour Delane now, and literally I had to go back to after recording this, and this is kinda me after the fact. So I've already finished the mock draft and recording it. This is kinda like the post-cheese sling talking here. I'm talking about myself in third person. Oh, geez Louise. But Colton Hood is going to be still the selection here. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Chiefs to go ahead and get themselves that cornerback to replace Trent McDuffie. You've already got one guy in there. I mean, you got some competition. I'm sure they'll bring in some guys. Maybe they re-sign Jalen White. I doubt it, though. You know Brett Veach and his whole ability where it's like you draft and develop, and they don't really do that sort of things with their corners. But Noel seems to be at least one of those pieces. So you add in Hood there with Noel and kind of rock out that cornerback room. So there you go. A little bit of a throw in there real quick. I'm going to do another mock draft with trades really, really soon to kind of update that priorities and things like that. But and then you got Caleb Banks here for the Denver Broncos, getting a defensive tackle to help replace if they lose John Franklin Myers at least, or just trying to get some more youth up on that defensive positioning, defensive tackle positioning. Banks, a freak athlete for a guy with 35-inch arms, 6'6". He's a big monster up in there, and certainly adds to that strong strength power that they have on their defensive interior. Cassius Howe, edge rusher, Texas A&M. I am a big Cassius Howe fan. He's going to be certainly a my guy, whatever you want to call it. Love the speed. And I think he brings that effortless bend, ghost move ability, and certainly could be a Kavlon Chason long-term replacement if they can only bring him back on a one-year deal, or if whatever. If he doesn't back, then you need to really add some more talent to this edge room, even if he is back. Chris Johnson. Woo-hoo-hoo, he solidified himself with the combine time. I love Chris Johnson, another one of these guys. Just he was so buttery smooth at the Senior Bowl. He showed off that, hey, I got some speed too. Don't count me out, man. I got getting away from got speed. I hold up to the name reputation out here. Anyway, maybe he doesn't play that fast, but I do think he's a guy, if nothing else, could work into the slot for them, even though they got Nicky Manwari. I think he can hang up on the outside, no problem with Witherspoon. So you got Witherspoon, Johnson, and Eman War. That's yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Malachi Fields gonna be the pick here, wide receiver from Notre Dame, at a big size talent there for the New York Jets. Whoever our quarterback may be, maybe it's Malik Willis, maybe it's Kirk Cousins, maybe it's we'll get somebody Drew Aller here in a bit, or Garrett Nussmeier, all those possibilities. Ty Simpson, Malachi Fields going to be a nice option for us on the perimeter. I love that combo with Garrett Wilson. We need help. On to the Cardinals. We're fully into round 2 now. Max Ahanichor, the dinosaur, makes his way right tackle. You say, you pass up on Ty Simpson? Yeah, I'm passing up on Ty Simpson. I'm not buying into the whole Ty Simpson first round thing. I think he's going to go later. I'm not being fooled. I'm not being fooled. We saw guys like Shador Sanders. We've seen the Malik Willis's fall. I think he'll fall maybe further than we think. But Maxi Honachor, right tackle of the future for the Cardinals. We didn't get a tackle in the first round, so I figured let's solidify that here with the Honachor. Elite traits, just got to work on that technique some more. He's a super young player to the football positioning in general, just playing football. I think he'll get there. Then we go on to Brandon Cisse is going to be the hey to the Tennessee Titans, but Cisse, ultimate traits guy here, and Robert Saleh, get him a cornerback to be able to develop and somebody to build this secondary that they need help. We got Caden McDonald. Yes, sir. We need a defensive tackle for this Las Vegas Raiders team, and McDonald is the answer. He's going to be a nice stud, day one impact for the Raiders. Well, I mean, you got Adam Butler there, who's a solid piece and whatnot. They got Lalu, but they overall it's like need more talent. So getting someone like McDonald's going to help out that defensive line right away. CJ Allen, this is where I feel confident here in the second round. Allen's a good player. I do have some questions as him as a pass coverage guy, but as a run thumper, Bobby Okereke, put him next to him. CJ Allen, yes, that's a combination I like. They struggle to stop the run at times, and helping out Sexy Dexy too is getting, another maybe one tech into that room, and free agency would be nice. But Allen, yes, I like that. Christian Miller, hopefully I like that. You like that? We got him coming somewhere. Kirk Cousins, he might go to the New York Jets. Defensive tackle though here with Christian Miller and adding that Georgia defensive stud. He's strong at the point of attack. I think he can work in there as just a great D'Amico Ryan's physical mold. Got Zachariah Branch going early to the Cleveland Browns. Hey, I'm not done with wide receiver. I'm double dipping. They need help, and we're gonna throw all the fences at building around Shador Sanders. We get offensive line, get wide receiver, Zachariah Branch, Omar Cooper. That is some insane speed, yak ability, toughness. Like, just you got everything, right? And hopefully Cedric Tillman takes a step, but I'm just looking at all the base. I'm covering every base. It's a home run out here. We're going for the grand slam. Zachariah Branch with his overall athletic testing. Yes, sir. Akeem Mesidor, going to be the edge rusher. He's probably going earlier than this in the actual draft. I'm not as high on Mesidor as others. I do worry about some of those. Like, yes, he wins with a lot with some speed and stuff. And I don't know. I don't always see the power profile with Mesidor, but he's a good football player still. And I think here in the second round, he's a 25-year-old, or he's going to be like 25 years old. I'm not as worried about that. We've seen plenty of guys come into the league, very successful. I mean, Jonathan Gannard came in like when he was, what, 24 or something like that. Whatever. Jared Verse, I believe he was 24. I'm not that worried about that sort of thing, but Mesidor, good football player. Actually, I don't think Grenard was that old when he came in, but either which way, they need somebody in here. Mesidor certainly can provide some much needed help for the Chiefs in their pass rush. D'Angelo Pines, cornerback, Indiana, the Hoosier. I think he would line up into the slot for them, be that long-term Mike Hilton replacement, basically, that had been looking for. I mean, Davis has been fine, so Jalen can start early on. However, Pons could be. I actually think Pons would start right away, and Davis could be a rotational player for them. And they need some secondary help in general. Pons could play on the outside for the long haul because Dax Hill, they can't pay either. It probably won't pay Dax Hill and Turner. So finding some help in the secondary is going to be a future need and a day one type of need for them. Emmanuel Prignon is going to be the pick here from Oregon, going to be a day one starter for them on the interior. Continue to improve that interior offensive line for them, make it a strength. You know, they got good tackles now. Let's build that interior a little bit. Pregnon can do that day one starter for them for the Saints. On to TJ Parker, defensive edge. Let's go ahead, and I know I passed on Ruben Bain. I'm probably going to get some slick really hate for that one, and I don't blame you for that, but I like Bain a lot. Parker here in the second round. It's not a bad consolation here to get them some more talent off the edge. Certainly could use that with Chop Robinson. They're going to have to get some free agency guys because what right now they got like Cameron Good. So yeah, let's go in there. You got Quentin Bell. They need more help off the edge. So TJ Parker can provide that. Hosea Trotter, linebacker. No quarterback. I'm still passing up on quarterback. We'll wait. We'll wait until 2027 draft, or maybe we'll get somebody in the fourth round. But Hosea Trotter, I'm not passing up on him. He's just too talented. We got a Mizzou cat last season that worked out for us. Let's go get another one. Trotter is an absolute definition of thumper mentality. Yes, with him and Jamie and Sherwood, I feel pretty good about our linebacking situation here. He'll be our Quincy Williams replacement. Then you got Zion Young going over to the Baltimore Ravens, getting some defensive line help. And we need that, right? We need somebody off the edge. We need some more talent here. Zion Young can certainly provide that for some defensive talent. He brings some serious motor skills for sure. Malachi Lawrence. Oh, what to say about Malachi Lawrence? I might have him as a first-round guy at this point. I don't know. I like Lawrence a lot. He's a super explosive guy. I love his hand counters. Man, he's a counteracting kung fu specialist, man. Like, he literally is like the Jackie Chan of this draft class. Yes, I will sign up all day for Lawrence, especially for a team that's looking for some more pass rush. Yaya Diaby, Malachi Lawrence, booming. You go ahead and add in Jeremy Bernard for the Colts. A little change up here. I figured if Alec Pierce gets a big payday, they just tagged Daniel Jones, gave him the transition tag at $37 million. They may not be able to pay Alec Pierce. And that's where I'm like, hey, let's go get Jeremy Bernard in here. Michael Pittman's getting a little bit, on that contract, getting a little expensive now, so they may have to move on from him at some point. Jeremy Bernard, Josh Downs, a little, with injuries there with Josh Downs. Their depth right now at wide receiver is really, really thin. So Bernard makes a lot of sense here. I wouldn't be shocked if they go after a wide receiver. Chris Brazzell would also be kind of like a nice little like a fit for Alex Pierce if they end up losing him. That would make sense. But Bernard's a good wide receiver, and that's the way I'm going. Deion Burks, another wide receiver off the board. I went back and watched Burks' film. Yes, I love Deion Burks. Sign me up. He passes the eye test to me. I think Burks is absolutely what the Falcons need. Brings some explosion and some deep speed. And yes, he is so quick off the line. I think Burks is going to be a big time difference maker. He may not be like 1,000-yard wide receiver year in, year out, but he is going to elevate this wide receiver room as a whole with Pitts, London, if Mooney stays around, of course. But like with London, it's just going to make everything easier for him to be your possession, and then Burks is your speed guy. Yes, I am all for that. I think that's one of the great fits. Zachariah Branch would be a good fit too. Let's go on. Jadarian Price, really good combine as well for Price. Checked off every box, 4.4 speed, and he's got that one cut ability. He's tough as well, off contact. You want to see the receiving ability. That's the one question here. I mean, Aaron Jones, they may trade him. So Jadarian Price, plug and play guy there at running back. You got R. Mason Thomas, edge rusher, going to the Detroit Lions. I certainly thought about corner here. I thought about maybe even, linebacker possibly. Who knows? Maybe Alex Anzalone is gone after this season. But R. Mason Thomas brings him some speed, a good complementary skill set with Aiden Hutchinson. And R. Mason Thomas, I think, could end up going to the first round. So I'm like, hey, let's get him off the board here. May not be exactly Campbell guy, who knows? But I think R. Mason Thomas certainly be. He might be. I don't know. We'll see what he brings. Jake Goulday, linebacker to the Carolina Panthers. I think it'd be a great compliment with that skill set there with Trayvon Wallace. I love what he brings in that middle of the defense. I think he's got a great size. I mean, he does have great size. I know he does. And he's a decent athlete. 4'6" for his size, really, really good, too. So, and I think he's a very nuanced guy at that linebacker position. Let's go on to Lee Hunter, defensive tackle for the Green Bay Packers. I think he's exactly what they need on their defensive tackle position. They need a big man, right? I mean, they got Wooden, they got Brooks, they got Wyatt, but they could use a guy who can just eat blocks, gimme, right? Like that's what they need. Hunter's that guy. Then we got Bud Clark, gonna be safety, plug and play, day one starter, self-explanatory. I mean, his off season is testing and Senior Bowl, he's elevated himself so much. I think he's easily gained some of the most positions in this draft out of anybody with this offseason. Bud Clark has been a spectacular all offseason here. And you go back to his film, he's a playmaking guy. Pittsburgh, they need that dude. They need a guy at the back end. Bud Clark can be a dude. And he can also play a little bit everywhere. He can be that Minkah Fitzpatrick replacement for them. Chris Braswell, wide receiver here for the Philadelphia Eagles. Self-explanatory. They need some more help here at wide receiver with the fact that A.J. Brown likely could be gone after this season. I mean, we'll see what happens. It may not happen this offseason. I think next season it more in the question of that happening, but it definitely could happen. So let's at least try to, get ahead of that a little bit here with Chris Braswell. Let's go on to Chase Bisontes. Mekhi Becton's now gone. They could use center. They could use guard. Chase Bisontes. Let's just add in somebody on that interior, right? Please, let's get some help. And Bisontes, really, really solid athlete. His film's really good, so easy pick for me. Jacob Rodriguez going to be a replacement here for Devin Lloyd. He's going to get paid, right? And if they can't bring him back, well, you go ahead and add in Jacob Rodriguez, great linebacker, man. And I have no issues with Jacob Rodriguez here. Like, I'm not worried the fact that they get Rodriguez and missing out on an Allen or a Trotter or an Anthony Hill, because I think Rodriguez is that good of a football player. And maybe that's gonna be a strategy for the Jags here, is to get themselves a linebacker with that top pick. And because of this linebacking class, it's just really, really good. Kamari Ramsey, safety for the Bears. They absolutely need to invest in the safety position. Kamari Ramsey checked off every box athletically wise. He's just a smooth athlete. I am a huge Kamari Ramsey fan. I think he can play a little everywhere. I mean, I like him more in the back end, but I do think his tackling situation has gotten misconception. I still think he's a solid tackler, and I just think he'll be a really good player for this Bears team, or whoever drafts him. Eli Stowers, tight end. This is a fit, right? This is one of those where it's like, okay, just kind of looking at the teams or where Stowers could go. I love him to the 49ers as that hybrid, wing move around chess piece that they can utilize him as. He'll get stronger, and I think he'll be better blocker with the 49ers and getting him developed coaching staff wise, learning under Kittle a bit. Obviously, Kittle, an injury situation, they need some help here at the tight end position. I mean, Tonjes has been great, but Stowers can be that 1-2 punch with him going into next season. And talk about speed and explosion. 45.5-inch. What? I mean, come on. That guy can he could dunk from a 12-foot basketball goal. Gabe Akis going to be edge rusher here for the Houston Texans. Kind of a BPA scenario. I mean, I'd consider safety, but we had a couple safeties go off the board here. So I figured, let's go ahead and add an edge rusher here. I mean, we could double dip offensive line too. I wouldn't hate that. but Akis just kind of solidifies that edge room, be that third guy. And Daniil Hunter going into a contract this season. Maybe gets extended, but he's getting a little bit older now. So all things you have to look at. Connor Lou going to be headed to the Buffalo Bills. They need a center of the future. Connor McGovern's a free agent. Heck, David Edwards is a free agent. Maybe they bring back one of those guys. Long term, though, let's go ahead and find some interior offensive lineup, whether it's guard or center. Now we go on to A.J. Halsey, safety. Going here to the Rams. Get themselves that hammer to go along with Cam Kitchens. He's a hard-hitting specialist, man. I do think he needs to work on his wrapping up ability, per se. But he's a feisty dude over the middle of the field making plays, man. He's just a hunter. He's a ball hunter. Let's just be real. That guy makes more plays. And for the Rams, they're not as worried about the athletic sort of things. They can work him out in that secondary and that quarters ability that he has fits the bill. Speaking of fitting the bill, Keelan Rutledge, he fits the bill at guard. They need to go ahead and start thinking about that position with Ben Powers' contract getting a little expensive. They haven't officially cut him or anything like that. But, that's something to at least start to invest in a little bit. And let our offense line get a little younger, get a little cheaper. Rutledge, power hunger, right? Power. That's what he brings to the table. Blake Miller, right tackle of the future. They probably need to address the interior, possibly upgrading the center position. Well, they put Wilson at center and maybe upgrading the guard position. So that's an option too. They could go on free agency and go that route too. So a lot of different possibilities for the Patriots. But Blake Miller adds a right tackle of the future by Morgan Moses for a season. And then we go on. Mike Washington Jr. Woo. Whoa. Talk about another dude that made some money. Mike Washington. Oh, Mike Lowry. That's who he made some money too. But Mike Washington, he certainly is going to be the bad boys of this running back class. And boy, he's got size, he's got speed, and he certainly is going to be that nice replacement for Kenneth Walker if he ends up getting a payday somewhere else, trying to find some more help at this running back position. Mike Washington, maybe running back 3. He might be running back 2. You never know. I think Jadarian Price probably still running back 2, but Mike Washington here, at least competing with Emma Johnson, running a little bit slower over time. Ty Simpson. Okay, here we go. Ty Simpson. I feel more comfortable in the third round with Ty Simpson, all right? And for the Cardinals, we need to take a chance here. We got our right tackle. We got Sonny Styles, that linebacker, however the heck you want to put him. Like, he is just a freak Hall of Famer, right? I keep saying I got to be careful with the way I put in that. But, yeah, Ty Simpson, third round. He at least competes. Get him out there. And it doesn't rule you out for next year's quarterback class either. And then we got Sam Heck here for the Tennessee Titans, going to be their center replacement of the long haul. And, I mean, Heck could also play guard early on if they wanted to. So even if they want to let Corey Levin be their center, which is fine. I think Levin could play center, and then Heck can play guard, and then Heck could be their long-term center. Because Heck is, 31, going to be going on 32 years old. So finding somebody for the future is still important. And whether it's guard or center, that is going to be an area that they can improve upon here. And protecting your quarterback, Cam Ward. We got ourselves a corner, and of course, we got ourselves a playmaker in Jeremiah Love. On to the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to go get a little friendly help here for Fernando Mendoza. Elijah Surratt. Yeah, let's go ahead and bring that back shoulder over from Indiana. That connection that he had there makes too much sense. Sam Roush sounds like a Mazda dealer out here. But tight end going to be the addition here for the Philadelphia Eagles. Give them that inline wide traditional blocking guy that also has some solid athleticism. I mean, running a good time. What was a 4.7 flat at 270-pound range? That guy's a monster, man. He certainly is. So really good athlete. Definitely has the size profile to play in line. Help them out there if Dallas Goedert ends up walking in free agency. Jalen Farmer, the farmer. He brings the rakes. He brings the corn. He brings the style up here to Houston. We're double dipping the O-line. Make sure we invest in the trenches. Farmer's a physical monster. And I think D'Amico Ryans would approve of this message. Get yourself 2 physical monsters in there on the offensive line. Now we go on to Keith Abney, the second. He is going to be there. Well, not their second pick. Not quite the puns there, but I think it's like their 4th pick. Keith Abney going to play in the slot early on. You got Tyson Campbell on the outside with Denzel Ward. Abney slides into the slot. Continues to add to that secondary and make it even better. Zaki Wheatley was also the best player available at that point. I'm not going to pass on Wheatley and Tyson going in or what. I mean, you can always move on from him at any point. So if things don't work out, Abney could be out there too. Denzel Ward is figure out be a Cleveland Browner for the rest of his career. Zaki Wheatley, though, here going to be the safety ad for the Washington Commanders. They need help there. Really bad, self-explanatory. They need a guy up on the roof. I think Wheatley can bring the roof man up in here, not the movie style. Chris Bell, wide receiver. The Bengals got to select themselves that third weapon. Who's going to be the help out here for Joe Burrow just in case you're doubling up on T and Jamar, which is hard enough in its own realm, but you got yourself a yak underneath guy who can just take the ball. I mean, they already got plenty of those guys, right? But Chris Bell certainly adds another one of these crazy threats into this offense. And you're going to think he can play big slot for them. Trayden Stukes going to be a nice little slot addition for the New Orleans Saints. Hey, Volante Taylor hits the market. Go ahead and find yourself that next complimentary piece here. And of course, Quincy can play up there in the slot too, I imagine. However, he's been playing on the outside. So he put Stukes up in there slot, Riley and a Kool-Aid there on the outside. Now we go ahead into Genesis Smith. He's going to be their roof player here for Kansas City. They also need a guy up top. They need somebody with some speed and some playmaking ability in the Chiefs defense, something that they missed for a hot minute. I haven't really seen in their defense. And Genesis Smith brings that. That's exactly what he brings. Another tackling stuff will get talked about, and that's why he drops a bit. He could be the Caden Bullock of this draft class because many parallels there. Gennings dunker. Oh, he dunks on dudes, man. And yeah, he's certainly going to be that offensive lineman that brings some serious grit in the run game. He's got that, just that kicking, butt mentality. And he moves to the interior more than likely just because he's lack of foot speed and whatnot. I mean, you could try him over there at tackle. If Austin Jackson gets injured or whatever, then you could try him out there. But I think Dunker slides in one of those, or at least compete with Cole Strange, even if he is back. They need to improve the positioning there. Let's move on to the cage. We're into the cage match here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He almost is kind of like that guy where it's like Wyatt Millum of last draft. He's had a rough off season a little bit, but his tape is really good. And I like Cage a lot. I still think he's a great player. He went from being a second round guy to more of a third, fourth round guy, in my opinion. Overall, put him in there for the Steelers at left guard and slide him up in there. He could also be an emergency tackle, but I think he can put right up in there and go that route because they need a left guard of the future. With Samalo being a free agent, I think just makes a lot of sense there. Max Clare, tight end, they're going to be the addition for the Buccaneers, going to improve their tight end room. With Otten being a free agent, they at least need to add to this position. I mean, if they give Otten a big contract, then maybe you go ahead and say this is not as big of a need, but for the time being, they could certainly add somebody. Claire's a good receiving option that can fill in for the Otten. And then we got Dominic Orange for the Indianapolis Colts. Give them that nose tackle one tech, more one tech in this case scenario. I think he fits that bill perfectly. It could be a great Grover Stewart developmental understudy, and ain't nothing else, give him some rotation on that defense line as he's getting a bit older. On to David Benosin, and going to help out that secondary, be that key piece. Mike Hughes, development behind him for a season, and a rotation if you have injuries, of course. And then, of course, Billy Bowman in the slot with A.J. Terrell on the outside. Grayson Olton, yes, sir. Give him some muscle mass, give him some strength, give him some pass rush up on that interior for Baltimore. They need guys, they need players, and much less on that Baltimore interior. They're very thin, especially with Matabuki's injury and whether or not he'll be the same coming back from that, if he'll even be able to play. Unfortunately, we'll have to keep a monitor on that. But Holden gives him some pass rush upside there on the interior. Derek Moore, best player available for the Jags. I would have loved to gone after an interior player like Grayson Holton, but the Ravens snagged him right in front of him. However, that's fine. We'll go BPA. We'll go get Derek Moore. He can certainly help them out in pass rushing situations. Hey, you could always move Walker to the inside, I guess, on those pass rushing scenarios. And Derek Moore and Josh Hines-Allen on the perimeter, beasting it out with that speed to power. VJ Payne, a safety, Minnesota. They get themselves like a guy who certainly can be, I mean, not like Harrison's, but I mean, some similar abilities there. He's a really good athlete, and especially for his size. Other than the Senior Bowl, he moved really well, was able to cover tight ends very well, and that is what he can do for the Vikings, can kind of be that chess piece who plays down. And also with the Vikings, they play a lot of too high coverages and in Brian Flores' defense. But those guys, they play down towards the line of scrimmage quite a bit, and they have to have a multitude of roles up there in like a quarters look. But VJ Payne, I certainly think, can do that hashing out that side of the field. And then we go on to Parker Brailsford, center from Alabama, one of my guys, right? My guys in the draft. I like Brailsford a lot. I think he's a really, really superb athlete, tested well. And another one of these dudes that just, yes, he's undersized. Sometimes I fall in love with these guys, but I just think he is more powerful than you think he is. Now, run game wise, I don't know if that's ever going to be his forte, head up one on one. And you can make the argument maybe this is not the perfect scheme fit or whatever, this and that. But I just think Brailsford's the best available player on the board, especially on the interior for them, with Cade Mays being a free agent. But Brailsford, despite that lack of potential, like overall just grit, power, drive blocking ability, I think he's such a good communicator. He's a great pass protector. I think his hand technique is fantastic, the best in this class at center. So yes, I'm just gonna go and take him here. Chandler Rivers, he's a fun player to watch. Rivers is an absolute star. It's just his size is a big question, so he's gonna come down to where does he go scheme wise. I think for the Packers, it makes sense. Him on the outside there. I think he can play on the outside. I also think he could play on the slot because he's got some physical toughness to his game. But he could also play as somebody who down the line with Nate Hobbs, not quite working out at this point. You got Nixon, who's going to be coming up on a contract year. Their cornerback room could look very, very different soon. So Rivers gives them that there. Ted Hurst, wide receiver to the Steelers. Hey, we're double dipping here as well for the Steelers. I am not done. Ted Hurst and Jordan Tyson. Yeah, okay. Now you know what I'm saying. We got to compete with those Browns who just double dip with Branch and Cooper. Now we go get our little pairing here. So Hurst, you got DK, and that's gonna be some speed on the perimeter. Oh my gosh! And then Tyson could play big slot. Like I actually like that a lot. So I think Tyson in the slot, Hurst and Metcalf on the outside. Aaron Rodgers gonna be happy this season. Darnell Washington and Muth up there at tight end. You got yourself something crazy cooking up here in Pittsburgh. And then we improve the offensive line. We'll look at defense here in a bit. Then we go on to Jake Slaughter, safe center prospect here, who's a really athletic guy and somebody that can come into that Chargers center position and start right away. And I figured let's improve this interior as much as we can. So getting Basantes, Slaughter, double dipping on that interior. And then on to the Miami Dolphins here. I'm getting a tight end, Justin Jolie from North Carolina State. He's a strong dude at the point of attack. He can block pretty decent as well. And I mean, he's a solid athlete too. He's a good passer. I mean, a great contested catch guy. Probably the best contested catcher in this entire draft. So adding yourself a tight end to pair along with Julian Hill and certainly adds to the room. Then we go on to Xavier Harris, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss. Get them that big Dion Walker style of prospect, right? And that's why I figured, hey, let's try to improve this however the heck we can. We need to improve the defensive tackle position, so that's what I'm looking at doing here. And hopefully Harris can give him some much needed oomph on that interior. Kyle Lewis going to help out the Bears at the linebacking position with Tremaine Edmonds, possibly a trade candidate here, trying to save a little bit of money. Lewis falls to this point. I'm like, oh, easy pick for them. And get yourself a stud linebacker who can be kind of like a hybrid safety. I mean, heck, they could even use him a little bit at safety if they needed to, right? But we get ourselves some much needed help at linebacker. And then moving on here to the Miami Dolphins, I'm going with Drew Aller, quarterback from Penn State. Still my number 2 quarterback in this draft, the guy that I would take a chance on here. And for the Dolphins, they could just roll with Quinn Ewers this next season and play for 2027's draft. I'm not against that idea either, and certainly a good idea. Just I'm trying to throw some of these quarterbacks out here too, and I like Drew Aller a lot. I do think he's worth at least taking a chance on, especially late day 2. If you can get him in this range from 90 to, even the hundreds, early hundreds, right? That's just an easy selection. He's just got so much talent where I'm like, all right, you never know, right? So at least he competes with Quinn Ewers, and with all to the Tua scenario, I don't know what's going to happen there, and we'll have to continue to monitor that. Keontae Scott to the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, you got Teron Johnson, who's been fantastic, but he's had a lot of injuries lately, and I think Scott would help them out in that regard. He could also play safety in this scheme with Cole Bishop. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. It's like Scott brings you some versatility where he could play safety and could also play a little nickel. They need some depth there at the nickel position, and that's where Scott comes into play. Joshua Josephs, edge rusher here from Tennessee, just give me some more juice off the edge. Give him another pass rushing kind of like specialist in this case scenario. I also think Romello Height would make a lot of sense, but I do that all the time. So I was trying to change it up, go with Joshua Joseph in this case scenario. But Romello Height, Joshua Josephs, Derek Moore, like all those type of guys in this range, I think make a lot of sense to go with like a Mikael Williams and Nick Bosa. To the Rams here, I'm going with Keegan Trost. It's going to be the developmental guard. He plays tackle in Missouri, but I do think he moves to the inside of the next level, and that's fine. Let him develop behind Kevin Dotson, and you find yourself some help on that interior just in case you can't pay him after this next season with contracts. Got to pay a lot of big-time players next to, like Turner and Nakua and all those guys, right? So, yeah, might want to find some future development there on the interior. We move on to the Denver Broncos. I'm going to go add in a big time weapon into this offense, kind of like a joker type, of course, is Michael Trigg, a big wide receiver, whatever the heck you want to call him. I think he's going to be a great little developmental guy behind Evan Ingram. It just comes down to some of the off the field stuff, of course, with Trigg, but the on field stuff, oh, it's fantastic. This guy is a true difference maker on the field. He's got monstrous hands, monstrous wingspan. He could play tackle possibly with his wingspan if he bulked up and whatnot. Yeah, dude has insane wing, and Trigg can be another big time weapon for Bo Nix in the offense. Speaking of weapons, we're trying to find somebody for Drake May as well. Bryce Lance and Trey Lance's brother. He's got some speed, right? Oh my gosh, does he have some speed ever? And he's going to be that vertical guy on the perimeter. It can be kind of like a big X. I mean, he's more of like a Z, I guess, if you want to put it that way. And I'm trying to find a big X for this team because they could use that. But Lance is going to just be somebody that blows by dudes on the perimeter. I mean, another deep threat for Drake May, who's got one of the best deep balls in the NFL. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, is like, hey, just let Drake May cook at that deep ball ability. Moving on to the Seattle Seahawks here, I'm going with Logan Jones. And it is a little bit tricky because I maybe would have liked to go with a guard. However, Sundell could also play guard for them. So I'm just thinking, hey, you could put Logan Jones in center and then go with Sundell over at guard, and it just, figure it out, right? Get the best available players and trying to continue to improve the offensive line is the way that I see this. We go on to Jack Endries from Texas, formerly a Cal, and he is going to be that developmental piece for Minnesota. I think that what's going to happen is Kyle Huggins is going to end up taking a pay cut. So if that's the case, this may not be as big of a need, but it is still something that they could look at for the future. And it still makes sense to draft somebody like third, fourth round. And Endry is a guy that's really versatile. I think he's a really well-rounded dude, can block in line. He's got the size profile you look for. He can play up the seams, has enough athleticism to go up there and make plays. So I think Endry is just a really, really balanced tight end in this draft. You got Jay Sean Barham from Michigan, who plays a little hybrid edge role up there, and he played that for Wink, and that Michigan defensive Wolverine ability that he has that fits right in here for Vic Fangio. I think he's kind of like that scheme fit, and just always an area that they can improve in. If they're going to pay Jalen Phillips, then you might have to start looking at Nolan Smith. They're going to be able to pay all of these guys, and that's something you have to start at least looking at. And Jalen Hunt, maybe you can continue to rotate him in with Barham. On to the Pittsburgh Steelers here, and I'm going to go take Devin Moore, corner from Florida. The Gator they got James Pierre on the outside, who's been really good. It's just some of the limited showing too. So I want to at least add some competition there. I mean, you got Joey Porter on the perimeter. Rams is getting a little bit older. So we could add a little more of a versatile corner in here too that could play in the slot. So I just felt like Devin Moore was the best available here at this point. So that's kind of the way I look at it. But there are some other guys we could look at that have some slot ability and also some outside ability in here to keep an eye out on too. Especially if like a Chandler Rivers were to fall, I think that'd be a great add too. On to Nate Bergature from Texas A&M, going to be a nice add for this Jags team as that inline guy who's a tough physical catcher, can make big plays when you call upon him and when he's actually used, right? But I figure with where they're at, they need to maybe get a little bit cheaper at the tight end position. And you go ahead and add that Strange Bergature complimentary piece. Antonio Williams, a wide receiver from Clemson, going to add a weapon in here. A little slot mechanic Z action for Cam Ward in this offense. Another helpful hand. We got Jalen Kilgore to the Raiders. A slot, big target, weapon, corner, beast, extraordinaire, hybrid safety. I don't know. I'm losing the plot at this point. We're at pick 102, and I don't know. But Jalen Kilgore is Definitely got that physical profile, really good athlete too, and the Raiders need help in the secondary. I mean, at least competes with Greedy Vance in the slot. Now we go on to Garrett Nussmeier. The Jets take their quarterback of the future. Well, hopefully, right? I mean, what? We'll at least take a chance on a quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier. At the same time, this doesn't rule us out of the next year's draft and with our picks and setting us up for that potential being there. Darrell Jackson Jr., defensive tackle from Florida State, the big man who's going to add in some big-time side. Calais Campbell is somebody to watch out for, whether he's back or he retires. I don't know exactly just yet where he's leaning, but Darrell Jackson certainly adds an understudy in that big presence. We got Skylar Bell, wide receiver from UConn, who gives them a nice little shifty slot weapon if Wandell ends up leaving in free agency. I think he can play on the outside, actually, too, and that's really a maturity where he played, but he played a little inside, outside. Skylar Bell certainly can be a nice little jiggle monster up there for the Giants to pair along with the neighbors. We go jiggle monster. I can't believe I said that. Joe Royer, tight end from Houston. I actually like that term, jiggle monster. But Royer gives them a nice little, rough and tough piece at tight end to develop there with behind Dalton Schultz. And then I'm taking Dalton Johnson here to the Browns, safety prospect from Arizona. Really good playmaker in the back end, sees the field really well. And Delpit plus Hickman are both going to be going into contract years. So I'm figuring, hey, let's just try to at least get one guy to develop in here at safety. Broncos, I have them going Torian York here in the 4th round. He's just a really good linebacker that makes so many plays in run defense. He'll have some limitations with his size. He's not a bad cover guy, though. I still think he's got the instincts to do it. I mean, the size thing is a concern. He's not going to be able to get into all these lanes when they get, tighter and all those sort of things. But York is a guy I still really think is going to be somebody that plays despite the size. I think he could be an outlier. So we'll take a linebacker here in the 4th to help them out with Singleton and guys like Greenlaw, who's injured a lot. And, that's just kind of the way I'm looking at it. Plus, Stranad's a free agent as well. So Sanders hasn't quite worked out. He's kind of like a hybrid edge player at this point, too. We got Emmett Johnson falling to the Chiefs. I don't know if you can, dream up a scenario better for the Chiefs. So they get themselves Akeem Mesidor. They get Kenyon Sadiq. They get Emmett Johnson here. Just all around trying to help out in this roster. Emmett Johnson is going to bring that ability in the run game. And I think Emmett Johnson is just going to get a little underrated now at this point. I still like him. I'm not worried about the 40-yard dash time. He doesn't have that second level gear. Like, that was just something when you go back and watch his film, that's not his game, and that's fine. He's got that 20-yard burst. He's got a little bit of the Aaron Jones ability to him, and I think he's a good receiver too. So he's going to be my little Aaron Jones of this draft class, which Aaron Jones fell the 4th round, I believe. So there you go. Demetrius Crownover, going to be the tackle developmental guy here for the Bengals, who can sit behind the Orlando Brown for a season, develop, get his better with his hand technique and footwork, and hopefully can be your long-term left tackle. You got Dalen Everett, the corner, going to be a double dip scenario for the Dolphins, which is kind of like a best player available. I think there were still some really good corners, like Julian Neal's on the board, maybe a couple other guys. We're going to see like Charles Deming come off the board here in a bit, TJ Hall. I mean, I know Hall had a bad combine per se, but I think he's going to be a great slot corner. Everett, though, here on the perimeter can just carry that 1-2 punch on the outside. I think it's a good complementary skill set, too, with Delane. Now we go on to TJ Hall. Speaking of TJ Hall, here he is to the Dallas Cowboys. They need a slot, right? And they're looking for like a hybrid safety slot corner, in my opinion, for what Christian Parker is going to be going after. And Hall fits that bill perfectly. Really, really strong run defender. I think he's super instinctual too, and just somebody that is going to be a good blitzer. And he's a twitchy athlete. He's not a fast athlete, if that makes sense. And that's fine. Like, I think he's going to be like a Jordan Lewis replacement for them. That's kind of, you can make that comp even for TJ Hall. Jonah Coleman, running back here for the Indianapolis Colts, is a different pick, right? But he gives Jonathan Taylor that breather, right? You got, what is it? Amir Abdullah, I believe, is still their backup right now. So finding a good backup is still important. And just in case, right? We need to keep making sure we're watching Jonathan Taylor's workload, even though he can handle it. But Coleman is a great pass blocker, too. That is one of his early skill sets that he can come into the NFL right away and help out Daniel Jones in that pass blocking ability and just take off some pressure on third downs. And he can also He's got good hands too. So I think he'd be a good third down back for this football team. And JT can be your workhorse, of course. And then we got Harold Fanning Jr. going into the Atlanta Falcons as a somebody that with Divine Diablo going into a contract year, maybe they aren't able to pay Caden Ellis and Divine Diablo after this next. They're gonna have to pick and choose, or maybe they let go Caden Ellis and pay Divine Diablo, and that's fine. Harold Fanning Jr. a lot of upside, right? And he's going to be more of that weak side linebacker, and you can make the argument, well, maybe not the perfect scheme fit here, but I do think Harold Fanning Jr. is a fun little addition that could play a little off the edge and play a little linebacker for this team. So just trying to find a little bit of a fun fit there. CJ Daniels, wide receiver from Miami, formerly a Liberty, you know, the commercial, Liberty. I don't know what, you know, if your kid says Liberty, I mean, I guess that would be a big accomplishment. If you're teaching your kid already about insurance when they're a baby, that would be quite fascinating. But CJ Daniels, a physical wide receiver that makes extremely difficult catches, could be another great weapon with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, can be that DeAndre Hopkins type of replacement. Caleb Tiernan going to be some depth on the offensive line for the Bucks because that's been a big problem. I also think he could be their long-term Ben Bredesen replacement for them. With Cody Mock coming back, that will be huge, but they do need some depth on that offensive line, and Tiernan fits the bill here. Jeremiah Wright going to the Raiders, a big physical freak monster over there. I mean, not, you know, athletic, not a crazy athlete. He's a little heavy footed, but he's got that strength profile, and he can move dudes and rock players in the run game and in pass protection. We saw him at the Senior Bowl. He gave Caleb Banks a good couple reps. He did lose one rep here to him, but overall, I thought he did a great job for some guys there. The Senior Bowl showing off that power and just improving the offensive line important there for the Raiders. We go on to the Detroit Lions. I'm going cornerback Hezekiah Massis from California, a physical press corner there at Cal, and they play as much press coverage in the nation in college football as any team out there, and Hezekiah certainly can do that. And he showed off some athleticism, so he has that box checked. He is definitely a nice little perimeter corner to come at there. And Arnold could also play in the slot for them. So I think you could have Reed and Massis on the outside and then Arnold in the slot if they needed to, if Armeek Robinson walks in free agency. Zane Durant, defense, they just need upgrades in general in that cornerback room. Defensive tackle Zane Durant going to add some more juice. And Tershawn Wharton didn't quite have the season you were looking for, so I feel like Zane Durant could maybe be that developmental guy there to give you some athleticism ability with his 4.75 and really good athleticism to be able to develop there. Matt Goldman for the Green Bay Packers, some versatility, guard, center, and that's kind of the way I'm looking at it here with Elton Jenkins. Possibly they got to start looking at a long-term answer there, and Goldman can be that guy there from Michigan State. We go on to Taylor Green to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We go ahead and get that developmental quarterback. I know they have Will Howard, and I know they're still high. It seems like they're high on Will Howard, and maybe he is the long-term guy. Wouldn't rule that out drafting another quarterback here, or maybe they're setting themselves up for a 2027 quarterback class, and that's totally fine. But Green, with the combine scenario, I got to get him in the draft. All right. That's what it is. I got to get him out there for the, maybe the thumbnail. Who knows? I'll have to think about what I want to put in the thumbnail, but Green might be one of those guys you might have, rocket on there. So, hey, you can't blame me for this. All right. You just, my hands are tied. A quarterback running on 4.36 or whatever he ran, that's just too good to be crazy. Julian Neal, a teammate of him, going here to the Philadelphia Eagles, getting themselves a big physical corner on the outside. We got a safety. Now we go get a corner. Julian Neal, best available player and for a position of need for them. We got Malik Muhammad, cornerback for the Chargers, adding some depth in here with Cam Hart, Dante Jackson, and all those guys out here, and Taheep Still, etc. Like they could use a little bit of a fourth corner in here is kind of the mold. And with contracts coming up, I just feel like Malik Muhammad, get somebody there. Seth McGowan here for the Jags, going to be the pick, the Kentucky running back. If Travis Etienne walks, then this could be a bit of a need, right? I've no doubt in my mind that Tootin can fill that role, and then LaQuinn Allen can be that third down receiving pass blocking guy. But McGowan can be another tough runner between the tackles, showed off some good athleticism too at the combine. Jimmy Rolder from Michigan, really solid linebacker for a one-year starter at Michigan, tackle machine. And Christian Ellis is a guy to watch out for going to a contract year. Could make sense to find a developmental piece there. And then we got Romello Height, edge rusher, hybrid player for the Buffalo Bills can be a Von Miller type of replacement, situational pass rusher. And it's a different player than what they have in Landon Jackson. So I'm just looking for more of a situational DPR. And I think Romello Height can be that perfect addition for the Bills. Diego Pound's going to be a tackle to develop. I wasn't able to get offense line early, so we tried to go ahead and find what I could here towards this port of, round 3, round 4 of the draft. And Pounds is a physical freak and definitely looks like a tackle. And I think he can develop. He's got all the tools for sure. And behind Trent Williams, we'll see what happens there. And then on to the Detroit Lions. I'm going Jacoby Thomas, safety from Miami Hurricane. Give him some depth at safety because they need some there, especially with, whole situation and whether or not Brian Branch or Kirby Joseph are going to be fully healthy to start the season. And you got Avonte Maddox, you got Thomas Harper. I mean, Mills a free agent. So they got a lot of guys who are free agents out there too. They're going to have to figure out. So depth at safety is critical for them, whether it's free agency and the draft or one of the above, they need to do it. Brian Parker, the second, the shocker, Drew Tallman retired. That came from nowhere, I feel like. I mean, I'm sure he knew what was going on there, but Parker going to be a guy that I think moves into either center or guard at the next level. They're going to have to fill that need, and I know they're working out Tyler Biadasz right now, and that could be possibly their answer going into next season, but Parker fills somebody to develop there for them at center. Now we go on to Michael Taffy from Texas. He's a great story. He's not just a great story. He is a good football player. And I think for the Broncos, he can be a good Brandon Jones replacement for them down the line. A really instinctual safety that just knows how to play football. I mean, he's got probably the most starts out of any safety in this entire draft. So, if nothing else, he's going to be a great special teamer type. Like, think of like a Dewey, and from the Jaguars, and Andrew Wingard. He could be that type, but I do think he's got a little bit better coverage skills than that, a little bit more athleticism too. And then on to the New England Patriots. I'm going to go ahead and Eli Raritan here from Notre Dame. He's a guy that can help replace Austin Hooper if he ends up walking in free agency. Hunter Henry's getting a little bit older now too, so finding some more talent at tight end, I think makes a lot of sense in Raritan, who's a really nice, solid inline player that adds some speed too as a receiver up the seam. You got Denny Dennis Sutton here, edge rusher from Penn State. He might go earlier than this, basically just off of traits. I do think his tape has still some things to watch out for as he gets more nuance with his hands and more pass rush. Certainly has some nice athleticism, though, for the Saints to be that fourth edge rusher. If Cam Jordan does end up coming back, then that's fine, but Sutton gives you some more rotation there off the edge. Billy Sarath from Notre Dame going to be a nice tight guard to help in here and just trying to add in some more help with Connor Colby. Maybe they add in like an Isaac Samalu type, which would be a nice addition and add that veteran approach. And then you could go with a guy like Billy Sarath to develop for the future. We got Keion Crawford going to the Raiders, building up some edge depth here. You got Malcolm Kuntz, who, we'll see how long he sticks around. If not, or they get a free agent or whatever. And Max Crosby, to all those scenarios. I think Max Crosby sticks around. I would be a little surprised. Maybe they end up moving on from him. But with Fernando Mendoza coming right in here, I don't think this team is going to be looking to like tear down the roster. But Crawford gives them that developmental guy and really was the best player of the Senior Bowl. You can make the Senior Bowl game, per se, was one of the best there. Albert Regis, defensive tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, takes a little pressure off of Harmon having to be the nose tackle type all the time. And maybe Harmon can be more rushing the passer guy too. But Regis gives them some help in that run game, and especially with where they're at right now in their defensive line, adding another player in there with Hayward and Benton makes a lot of sense. Then we go on to Jeff Caldwell, the freak numbers. I had to get him in here too, of course. But Caldwell, I went and watched some film on him. I don't know if the speed and athleticism always shows up. I saw some of it like up the seams where it's like, whoa, yeah, I see some of that burst and athleticism. But off the, his release package definitely does need some work. I think that's going to be something he has to get better at. But for the Saints here, I'm okay with taking a guy in the 4th round range with his upside to go along with Chris Olave. And then Tavon Bailey and Mason Tipton and all those guys. And then we got Enrique Cruz Jr. going to the Eagles here. And he is a nice athletic guy that kind of came from nowhere. I've not watched at any of his films, so pardon me on that. I'll have to go take a look at him, but he's a guy that's going to go somewhat in this 4th, 5th round range is my my guess off of those testing numbers that he had. Actually, I think they may have given him a visit to the Eagles. Don't quote me on that. I thought they gave one offensive lineman a visit there. It may have been Cruz. And then you got, and they just need depth on their interior, especially with Dickerson's injuries and stuff like that. And then we got Charles Demings here, the cornerback from FC Austin. He is going to be a good developmental corner and just more about depth here. That's really what this one is. Just finding some depth because, with Luter, we'll see how, long term there. But they've got their starters. It just comes down to could they use some depth absolutely on the perimeter with Green and Lenore. So that's it here for the draft, man. Let me know what you think on this 4-round mock draft. I tried to include as many combine studs as I could. There's some guys that I did miss for sure. And overall, I really enjoyed it and really excited to see what free agency brings next. I'll probably do a mock draft with trades here too very, very soon. And that'll be done on the simulator. But I wanted to get out a template mock draft. That was a 4-rounder. But hey, keep it cool. Let me know what you think. How did I screw up your team? And I hope you guys have a good day.